Coming to you live from Denver, Colorado, the Mile High City. Welcome to the Sports Wagering Zone. You're in the zone. I'm Chris Pardo. Thank you very much for listening. Coming to you live on the I 95 Sports and Entertainment Network, as well as podcasting on most of your major podcast platforms such as Apple, Spreaker, Spotify, iHeartRadio, go on, but those are the primary ones. And of course, we're on most of the major ones as well. Of course, we're also on milehighradio.com if you're in the Colorado area or just about anywhere, but that's generally for that particular area. And of course, we're on Blackjack TV on the East Coast as well. So welcome to the show. Before we get started, I just want to apologize. Yesterday, we thought we had this broadband situation well in hand, but just seems like there was one more little glitch we had to take care of. So yesterday we couldn't do the show totally yesterday. So I really want to apologize for that. But I think we already have it all covered now. So, this moving from Charlotte over here to Denver has really been a headache for us here most of the time. But I think we're finally going to see the light at the end of the tunnel. Of course, hopefully that light at the end of the tunnel is not the train coming at us. So, anyway, I think we got it all settled. We shouldn't have any problems. So, again, I want to apologize for yesterday. And of course, we'll try to bring you up to date as to what we talked about yesterday as well. So, again, welcome to the show. And of course, we're going to be talking baseball because baseball is the top sport right at the moment. Okay. Of course, come this Thursday, you're going to start having some NFL action. You're going to have a great NFL week. You got Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and Monday. You're going to have football games throughout those 4 days with a lot to see. Again, the question is whether or not you want to see it. I mean, it's just a bunch of guys out there. Some of them you've never heard of, and some you'll never hear of again. But it's still football, just something to watch and kind of gives you something to do. And of course, you can bet on these games if you'd like. Two schools of thought on that. There are a lot of professionals that like betting the preseason. They seem to think they can see certain opportunities, certain advantages in betting preseason games, and then others just kind of stay away from it totally. But again, just like everything else, we leave it up to you. So today we're going to review once again and kind of look over how things are going as far as the over unders are concerned. Before the NFL season preseason started, we kind of told you about a little system about the under 37. We'll go into detail on that again, tell you a little bit more about some other handicapping tips on handicapping some of these games if you're interested in betting them on all, but kind of bring an update as to how well that system has been working so far. But of course, we got 3 games on tap to talk about as far as baseball is concerned. Got Toronto up against Washington, and we have Baltimore against the Rays, and we have the Browns against the Cardinals. Those are the 3 baseball games that we're going to pay close attention at, take a look at the line movement, and also kind of give you an idea as to which way the pros are going in them as well. But as always, the first thing we do is kind of take a look at what happened yesterday. Not much, only Major League Baseball. NFL was off for the day yesterday. They'll be back on Thursday, like I said. So in baseball, the favorites, well, as usual, they still continue to dominate the betting scene. 7-3 yesterday, with the only upsets were by the Royals at a plus 139 against the Astros, and the Rockies a plus 115 against the Padres. Meanwhile, the White Sox were a plus 105 against the A's, and the favorites still lead. They're at a little over 59% for the entire season. Now, as far as the over-unders are concerned, they split yesterday 5-5, and the overs still lead just a little over 50% at 50.5%. So that's just about most of the stuff that happened yesterday. Baseball is still the major sport that everybody seems to be betting on. But of course, like I said, coming Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and Monday, you're going to have NFL action, preseason action throughout all those days. And we'll be covering the line movements on those games as well. So, anyway, before we get into the three games on tap, we're going to take our first break as we usually do at this time of the show. But before we go, I just want to give a quick shout out to Garrett over at the bookie. We're trying to do some things with the bookie, and we'll tell you more about it as it kind of progresses. But I just want to say to Garrett, thank you very much for getting in touch with us. We're going to try to keep in touch with you and see what we can work out so that our listeners and your guys that subscribe to your email are all taken care of in the proper way. So once again, Garrett, thank you very much from the bookie. We'll be talking to him and about him in the coming days. But in the meantime, let's get that first break out of the way. And like I said, we do have three breaks in the show. Each one is of a 1 minute duration. So if that's the case, we'll be back in 1 minute. And welcome back. Here we go again. We're back in the sports wagering zone. Got that first break out of the way. Got a chance to take a little sip of water, kind of get those various units and parts of the laryngeal system to kind of start working again. So anyway, thanks for listening. You were on the I-95 Sports and Entertainment Network. Of course, we podcast on most of the podcast platforms such as Spotify, Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, Google Podcasts. You're there. We're everywhere. But also you can get a hold of us, just like Garrett did. Garrett listened, heard the show and got in touch with us by simply sending an email to the sports wagering zone at gmail.com. That's the sports wagering zone at gmail.com. If you have any comments about the show, if you got some ideas, some thoughts like Garrett did, and we could probably work together on certain things, that's what we're here for. We want to make our listeners, the new bettors out there, the regular bettors that have been betting for a while, try to make it as easy as possible for you to try to slip into some sort of a system or a method, take all the emotions out of your betting and try to be more analytical in your betting approach. And this way, I know if you kind of go that way, I'm not saying you're going to become a millionaire, but hey, if you come out ahead at the end of the season, that's all that really matters. So we'll be going into that as well. So once again, to get a hold of us, simply send an email to the sports wagering zone at gmail.com. The sports wagering zone at gmail.com. In the meantime, let's take a look at three games on tap tonight, see how the action is flowing, see where the money is going in these major league games. There are a full slate of teams. You got 16 games to choose from today. So we have three that we kind of took a look at. So here we go. At 7 o'clock, you got the Toronto Blue Jays at 63 and 54, playing the Washington Nationals, who are 50 and 68. Now, this is an interleague game. And the teams are trending in opposite directions, as you can tell from the records 63-54, 50-68. The Blue Jays are 13-6 over their last 19 games, and they're just 4 games back of the second wild card spot in the American League. Now, in the meantime, the Nats, well, they sold off all their big pieces at the deadline, and now they've lost 7 straight. Okay. So Washington is just 1-12 over their last 13 games. So in tonight's series opener, Toronto comes in with their right-hander, Alek Manoah. He's 5-1 with a 2.59 ERA. And Washington comes back with their right-hander, Eric Fetty, at 4-8 with a 5.12 ERA. Now, as we look at the line in this game, it opened with the Jays listed as a minus 175 road favorite, and the Nationals a plus 160 as a home dog. Now, the pros, I know that looks a little big up there, a little high, minus 175. That doesn't scare them off because they like big chalk numbers if they kind of feel that they like the team as well. They're fading the Nationals and they're steaming up the Blue Jays up from minus 175 all the way up to minus 190. So if you're thinking about betting this game, keep in mind minus 190, and it'll probably climb a little higher before game time, but you got to lay some wood on this one if you like the Nationals. Road favorites coming off a big win, 5 runs or more, are at over 65% this season. Okay, and of course, the Blue Jays fit into that category. Also, interleague favorites. If they're at minus 175 or more, they're at almost 70% win percentage so far this season. Toronto's 41-31 as a favorite. The Nationals, well, they're only 19-50 as a dog. Toronto's 48-37 against right-handers, and the Nationals, they're 37-45 against right-handers. The Jays are plus 127 in run differential. The Nationals, they're in the minus column. They're at minus 57. So in this first game around 7 o'clock, the pros and all the analytics seem to point to the Toronto Blue Jays. But as usual, when you get the pros in on it and they're laying their big cash on it, you know it's going to be a big favorite. They're at minus 190, could climb even higher. So if you like this game and you kind of want to go along with the pros and go on the Jays, then of course be prepared to lay some heavy wood. Also at 7 o'clock, you got the Baltimore Orioles, who are 38-79, playing in Tampa against the Tampa Rays at 72-47. Now, the Rays, they kind of took care of business last night. They won 9-2. They were heavy, and I'm telling you, heavy. Minus 245 home favorites. Boy, that is a real top favorite. Imagine you got to sit down and lay $245 to win 100. Okay, they did it. It worked for them in this situation. The sinking Orioles have now lost 12 straight games. They come under the winning and losing streak situation along with Washington as well. But Baltimore, 12 straight games on the minus side. Meanwhile, the Rays, well, they're on top of the American League East. They have a 3.5 game lead over the Red Sox that are in second place. And of course, the Yankees aren't far behind either. Now, in tonight's rematch, Baltimore comes in with their lefty, John Means. He's 5-4 with a 3.21 ERA. And Tampa Bay comes in with their righty, Drew Rasmussen. He's 1-0 with a 3.81 ERA. Now, as we look at this line, it opened with Tampa Bay, listed as a minus 175 home favorite, and Baltimore a plus 160 road dog. And once again, the pros, they're not going to outsmart themselves on this one. They're happy to fade out the Orioles. Just forget about them. They drove the Rays back up again. Remember, yesterday they went off at a much higher number than you could ever imagine. Okay. Now, They're up from minus 175. They've been pushed up to minus 190 by the pro money. Now, home favorites receiving a 10 cents of steam or more, they're at almost 63% this season. Tampa Bay, they're 36 and 22 at home. Baltimore, 21 and 42 on the road. The Rays are 47 and 26 when they're a favorite, including 68.2%, almost 63% as a home favorite. So when they're home favorites, they're almost at 69%. The Orioles, of course, they're 35 and 71 as a dog. Tampa Bay, they're 26 and 21 when they're up against lefties. And Baltimore, well, they're 23 and 50 when they're up against right-handed pitching. The Rays have had the Orioles number so far this season. Their record so far against each other in head-to-head games, 12 and 1. So once again, you're going to see some heavy weight coming in on this particular game as well. Yesterday, Tampa Bay closed as a minus 245 home favorite. So if you like Tampa in this game, try to get in as early as possible while it's still around 175, 180, somewhere in there, because more than likely it's going to climb even higher. So be prepared to lay that wood if you like Tampa Bay against Baltimore. And once again, that first game we talked about between Toronto and Washington, again, the pros are on the favorite, and there as well. Be prepared to lay some wood, heavy wood, if you like Toronto in that game. So we're going to take our second break now. And of course, when we come back, there's one more game we want to talk about, and that's the Milwaukee Brewers up against the St. Louis Cardinals. So we're going to take a look at the line movement in that game, kind of get an idea as to which direction the pros are going, and let you know how this little system, this little method is working. And we'll talk about that when we come back. As usual, we'll be back into the zone in 1 minute. And welcome back. Here we are. We're back in the sports wagering zone. I'm Chris Pardo, coming to you live from Mile High City, Denver, Colorado. Yes, we are right here on the I-95 Sports and Entertainment Network, as well as podcasting on most of your major podcast platforms, such as iHeartRadio or Spotify or Google. We're just about everywhere. So we're talking baseball. We're talking about 3 games on tap for tonight, line movements, and trying to tell you which direction the pros are going. If you tuned in a little late, you just got on. At 7 o'clock, we talked about the Blue Jays against the Nationals. The Blue Jays are the favorite in the game. They're also the pick of the pros as well. And just a quick reminder, if you like the Jays in this game against Washington, then you should bet in as soon as possible, because the number will probably go up even higher. It's gone from 175 to 190 on the minus side, so you're going to have to lay some wood in that one. And even more so at 7 o'clock, you got the Orioles against Tampa Bay, and in that game, Tampa Bay is the favorite, a heavy favorite. Yesterday, just to let you know what's going on, they were a minus 245 as a home favorite. So if you liked Tampa yesterday, you bet them, you had to really lay some heavy wood. Right now, it's kind of hanging around 190, 195. So in this game as well, if you think Tampa is the pick and you want to bet it, try to get in as soon as possible because that number is going to go up. It could definitely go back over 200 once again. So those are the two games we talked about. One more game to give you some information on, and that's the about 7:15, 7:30, Milwaukee Brewers against the St. Louis Cardinals. The Brewers are 72-47. Cardinals are 61-56. Now, these are National League Central teams. They're separated by 10 games as far as the division standings are concerned. The Brewers, well, they're sitting comfortably right on top in first place. They just took 2 of 3 against the Pirates, of course, who hasn't? And they're now 6-1 over their last 7 games. Meanwhile, the Cardinals, they're kind of riding a hot hand as well. They just swept the Royals to earn 6th straight victory in tonight's series opener. So Milwaukee hands the ball to their right-hander Corbin Burnes. He's 7-4 with a 2.23 ERA. And the Cardinals, they come back with their veteran righty Adam Wainwright. He's 11-6 with a 3.27 ERA. So as we look at the line in this game, it opened with the Brewers a -135 road favorite. The Cardinals, obviously, a +125 home dog. And in this particular game, because it's so close, the public is kind of torn. They don't know who to back in this game. The tickets are coming in almost at like a 60-40, 55-45 clip. But the pros, they always have their minds made up. They're getting down on those Brewers. They figure they're in first place. They got their ace on the mound, okay? So they steamed Milwaukee up from -135 up to -150 on the money line. Now, keep this in mind. When teams get 15 cents or more steam, they're coming, and if they're coming off that win, they're over 60% so far this season. Milwaukee, they also have value because they're a favorite with a low total in this game because the total in this game is 7, okay, which kind of the thinking of the philosophy behind that is the fewer amount of runs. If you expect the fewer amount of runs to be played, then the more likely they're going to come from the better team, in this case being Milwaukee. So the Brewers are 54-36 as a favorite. The Cardinals, they're 24-33 as a dog. In the meantime, Milwaukee is a +113 in run differential. St. Louis, a -21. So in this particular game, the pros are on the Brewers. The general public, they're kind of going either way. They could go either way in this particular game. You have a low total in this game of 7. So look for the under. That's the way the pros are looking at this particular game. Once again, just to recap the 3 games for today, Toronto Blue Jays against the Nationals. The pros and the analytics are on the Toronto Blue Jays. And, of course, Baltimore against Tampa Bay. Tampa Bay laying some heavy wood. Also, they're the favorite, but they're the choice for the pros in that game as well. And finally, the Milwaukee Brewers and the St. Louis Cardinals. Although the public is kind of undecided which way they want to go on this one, the pros, of course, they make up their mind early, and they like the Milwaukee Brewers in this game. So those are the 3 games we looked at. Check the line movement. And once we check the line movement, we can tell which direction the pros are going. Now, yesterday, because of the broadband situation that we kind of came across yesterday, once again, we weren't on the air. So yesterday, we had 3 plays. We had Atlanta against Miami. In that game, we had Atlanta, which was a win. Cleveland against the Twins. At Cleveland, that was a loser. And then we had the Mets against San Francisco. In that game, we had San Francisco, and that was a winner as well. But just to give you an idea, this is what happened the day before. This is what happened on Sunday. On Sunday, we had 3 plays. Reds against Philadelphia, loser. Yankees against the White Sox, loser. Toronto against Seattle, loser. 3 losers in that particular situation. We'd like to, not that we like to tell you about those things, but we need to make sure that you know that we're not playing any favorites or try to make something look better than something else, okay? The whole idea is to try to give you the information the way it comes out. They win, they win. If they lose, they lose. We don't have a dog in this fight. It's a system, it's a method. A lot of people use this system and method. Maybe one of you out there listening right now does the same thing. So it's just important that you know when they are doing well, when they're doing bad. But in spite of all those losses, okay, so over the past 6 choices, they've had 4 losers and 2 winners. Okay. So we were at a 68% as far as a win percentage goes in the month of August. Okay. We now dropped down to 63%. Altogether, counting the 3 from yesterday, we had 44 plays, 28 wins. And if you put down the numbers, you'll see that that is what 63% comes out to. Okay. So, anyway, that's the story. And, as far as winning and losing streaks, I think we're going to kind of abandon that only because the NFL preseason is starting up. We got a lot of information to talk about there. And again, this is the time of the season where a lot of teams are being tanked. The Cubs in Baltimore, they got 12-game losing streaks going. They could have 20 before they're done. This is really not a good time of the year to bet on streaks unless you're going to follow them all the way down. In other words, at some point in time, you may say, "Oh, I think they're going to win now." You might want to play it at that point in time, but it's just really not the time of the season to bet on winning and losing streaks. If you do, again, it's totally up to you. I hope you're doing okay with it. I hope you're picking the teams correct and going in the right direction. But right now, you're going to see a lot of teams with losing streaks. You're going to have an occasional team that's going to have a winning streak, okay? But again, we're going to disband. We're not going to talk about that anymore because we've got a lot to talk about as far as the preseason in the NFL. We got college football coming up on September 4th. And of course, we have NFL season coming on the 9th. So just kind of let you know what we're doing here so we get an idea. So we're going to take our final break. And when we come back, before the preseason started, we talked about a little system about betting the unders, the over-unders for the games, okay, as far as point totals are concerned. So now that we've been doing it for a week, let's take a look and see how well or how bad they're doing. So this way, kind of bring you up to date as to maybe you might want to think about playing those situations. And we'll do that right after this final break, which is, as usual, just 1 minute. And welcome back, as here we go again. You're back in the sports wagering zone. I'm Chris Pardo. We're coming to you live from Denver, Colorado, the Mile High City, broadcasting on the I-95 Sports and Entertainment Network, as well as most of your major podcast platforms as well. We're here Monday through Friday at 1 p.m. Eastern Time live. I know some broadband problems. We weren't on at 1 o'clock, but I think we got that pretty well out of the way. So it's going to be 1 o'clock Eastern Time, Monday through Friday. And of course, on Saturdays and Sundays, we do come on at 11 a.m. Eastern Time. So that's the story there. So let's talk about the NFL preseason. It's really well underway. We had our first full week of exhibition football. And if you notice, the betting has really changed in the preseason from the regular season. It's different, okay? But that doesn't mean, like I said, that doesn't mean there aren't some chances, opportunities for you to kind of get in on. And like I said, I do know some pros that love to bet preseason games and they do very, very well with them. Yet I know others that they don't touch it with a 10-foot pole. So that's the story. But because of that COVID-19 situation, we didn't have a preseason last year, if you remember. So now you have nothing to look back on, okay, to kind of gauge for this season as well. Because the big change since 2019 is that the preseason now only has 3 weeks, not 4 weeks. So don't overlook the importance. This is quite an important number, and it might change the way coaches approach these various games. And we can see it with 4 game schedules. Coaches usually built up their starters. They gave them some more time in each of the first 3 games. And then they had that so called dress rehearsal in their third week. Okay. Then the final week, well, they're kind of looking at their lower end talent, trying to see who they want to keep, who they want to get rid of, because they have to start making some cuts. Now, with a 3 games season, the dress rehearsal, the question is, will it be a game 2, which is coming up this week? So that's something to think about. Will the starters play at all in the final game? That's another question that's going to have to be answered. They're simple, but they're important questions that you have to think about before you lay that money down. And perhaps the single most important concept that you'll want to understand is that some coaches, they use the games to set up momentum. They want to get that winning culture into their team, okay? Others, they could care less. They figure it'll come together somehow. For instance, look at the Ravens, John Harbaugh. Easily, he's been the league's best preseason team because they own 18-3 as a record. They've had that record since 2015, 18 wins and 3 losses. Mike Zimmer's Vikings also do very, very well. Meanwhile, looking at the Falcons, when they had Dan Quinn, they became known for essentially tanking the preseason because they wanted to keep their players healthy. So we'll see if that kind of changes in the first season under Arthur Smith. We'll see. Now, next thing you want to look at is whether a starting quarterback is going to play or not. Because if a price looks off to you or falls outside the little sweet zone, we call it, +3, -3 points. That's the line range. That's kind of a sweet spot. If it's a good bet, one of the quarterbacks is not suiting up if it's in +or -3 points. It's already been announced that Burrow, Stafford, and Rodgers, they're not going to play this preseason. And we didn't see Dak Prescott as well, okay? Because he didn't play in the Hall of Fame game. He didn't play last week either. So here are some of the betting concepts that we talked about a week ago, and let's see how some of them have changed. The line ranges have proven to be very telling. The odds makers have essentially led the bettors to water in the preseason. In fact, they're losing and have lost money this past week, though it's easy to see how these prices can be kind of tricky because since 2010, 5 teams have been favored by more than 7 points. All 5 teams lost against the spread. At the same time, favorites in that sweet spot, 3.5, 3.7, somewhere in there, 3.5, they've been quite reliable. They've gone 81, 105 and 81 against the spread, which is almost 57%. But if you look at the numbers, you'll see most of the games tend to come into that 1 to 3 range, 1 point, 3 point favorites. And those contests, those are the games where the underdogs really do well. Because since 2015, underdogs in that plus 1 to 3 point range are at 61% so far since 2015. Now, home field advantage, we've seen in only one of the last 9 preseasons have home teams finish with records better than 500 against the spread. Now, if you're simply guessing on these games or you're wagering them just for fun, go with the road team. The points that the odds makers give to the home teams for this reported home field advantage tends to tip the number against the home team and for the visitors. In fact, since 2011, road teams, are at 52.5%. And essentially enough to kind of make a small profit because we know 52.3 is where we want to be to break even. But the biggest thing of all, 37 is a magic number, and it has been for the totals so far. And just since 2010, totals of less than 37 have gone over at a rate of 58.5%, while those of 37 or higher have gone under, at 57%. Now, this, as of this first week, now that it's finally come to an end, altogether, there were 17 plays in that 37 category, 14 wins and 3 losses. So that's just something else you want to take a look at. Again, we talked about this at great length before the season started, kind of give you an idea as to, just a little method, a little system of trying to help you decide if you're going to bet on preseason games, unless you're doing it just for fun. You want to put $5 or $10 on it or whatever you want to do, which is fun money for you. Go ahead, that's fine. But if you seriously want to be ahead, look at that 37. Anytime you see a team that is at 37 or more, on the line, take the under in those games. They're 14-3 over this first week so far. So that's the story as far as that's concerned. That's the information. Try to keep you up to date. We'll see how they do this week, and we'll talk about it going into week 3. And we'll kind of let you know how that is and kind of set it aside and remember that for next season as well. In the meantime, the 3 baseball games on tap for today. We have Toronto against Washington. The pros are on Toronto. Baltimore against the Rays. The pros are on the Rays in that game. And the Browns-Cardinals game, the pros are on the Brewers and the Cardinals, I'm sorry. Quickly wrote those names down. And so the Brewers, they're on the Brewers in that game as well. So that's the story for today. It's Tuesday. I hope you have a very pleasant Tuesday. Yesterday was kind of the beginning of the week, so the week has started. Like I said, coming Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, you're going to have NFL preseason games for that entire time period. And we'll be here to talk about them, give you some thoughts and ideas on how to bet on them with all the analytical data that we can put together. We want to take that emotion out, You have to take it out. If you have emotion, yeah, you're going to win a few games, no doubt about it. But at the end of the season, more than likely, you're going to be in the negative side, unless you happen to bet on a team that does very, very well. But just because they're winning doesn't mean you're making any money either. So that's the story. We talked about it today. We'll be talking about it all week long. And just a reminder, we'll be back again tomorrow at 1 o'clock Eastern Time, right here on the I-95 Sports and Entertainment Network, as well as podcasting on, like I said, most of those famous podcast platforms such as Apple Podcasts, Spreaker, Spotify, iHeartRadio, whatever, we're there. So have a very pleasant Tuesday. And of course, if you're betting today, hey, I hope you have a profitable Tuesday as well. So until tomorrow at 1 o'clock Eastern Time, I'm Chris Pardo. Thanks for listening. Talk to you tomorrow. Goodbye, everybody.